Can we talk a little bit about emotional eating?
So it's asking yourself, what is your relationship to food? Is it one where you're constantly thinking about it? Because if that's the story or the narrative for you, it's constrictive and it's very overwhelming and it's very draining, actually.
So how do we get out of that mindset? Like, I go down to the hairdressers and be hearing women speak, and it's something that consumes their every day, their every waking hour.
If anyone takes anything from this podcast, please start doing mirror work. So you stand in the mirror, you look into your eyes, and you just say anything, something that's loving and kind and compassionate to yourself.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about health and wellness?
That it's all about the physical. We have to start to feel our emotions. We have to actually sit into them and listen to, well, why has this taken up residency in my body? It's like a parasite. If you neglect it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
I was speaking to someone only in the recent days, and they said, disease is dis-ease.
So if you break down the word, dis-ease, dis-ease, lack of ease. And where does the lack of ease come from? Being skinny was everything for me, and everything revolved around how I looked, what size I was, and really limiting my food intake. I just had that moment where I was like, there's something not natural about my relationship to food.
When you were basically starving yourself in the earlier days and you were not eating enough, you were missing something there too, were you?
Yeah, it came down to the same thing. I didn't think I was good enough. My biggest learning has been not everyone's going to love you.
Is there a blooper reel? That's okay. She's just fucking soaked me. That's okay. That's okay.
God,
actually, that was lovely and cooling.
That's what I call reframing. If I ever saw
I was very warm, and I was thinking of putting on the
aircon.
The aircon.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thank God I didn't hit.
Get me back for wiping your husband's audio when he was in here, so that's okay. I'll just pour this up again, and we have the tissues that Ma Fabulous has left out. No, just pass it over to me. I'll throw. Yeah, okay.
For now.
No,
sorry.
No, it's fine. It actually was lovely and cool. I feel great. We're definitely doing bloopers.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, fantastic. So I'm gonna let. I know it's a bit
there. Is that good?
Beautiful, and we're ready to go. Miriam Hussey, what a pleasure it is to have you on the podcast, a fellow pharmacist who has done a complete pivot and came out of pharmacy. And I suppose, why did you?
So firstly, thank you for having me. Delighted to be here today. I wasn't long into the world of pharmacy and working as a pharmacist. I was community pharmacy, and I felt like I was working more in a sick care system as opposed to a healthcare system, where people came to me when sometimes it was a little bit too late. And I remember one day I was behind the counter and I was filling out someone's prescription, and I just kind of had that aha moment where I was like, I think I'd be doing a better job, or I think I'd be of better service to the world, and specifically to my soul, because I felt like my soul was being squeezed and I just didn't feel like it wasn't lighting me up. I was 10 years there. And I just had that aha moment where I said, I think if I came out from behind the counter and spoke about lifestyle as medicine or preventative health, I think I'd be doing a better job. Because if I had met this person 5 years earlier, maybe they might not need all of these magic potions and pills. So what I realized was that month to month, when people were coming in and you're handing them their prescription or their medicine, they would be leaving. And I often asked myself, is anything going to change in that person's lifestyle between now and when they come back next month? And the likelihood was a lot of them, they didn't. So they're still in the same relationships, in the same job, eating the same food, maybe not moving the body or not exercising, maybe stressed off their head, or not getting enough rest, or not having enough joy and fun and play in their lives. And this lack of ease then was manifesting as dis-ease in the body. So we know that when your soul is not at ease, we become anxious in our mind, and that can dump distress signals into the nervous system. And when the nervous system is dysregulated, off balance, we tend to be in fight or flight, stress mode, sympathetic state of dominant living. And then that causes a whole malfunction to the hormones in the body, to the organs within the body, the main functionalities within the body. And I suppose I was fortunate in a way that I worked predominantly in the same pharmacy for that 10 years. So I was able to see the progression and the polypharmacy and,
so polypharmacy means lots of different medicines.
So one person
taking 10 or 12 medicines.
Yeah, or so one person, for example, would come in and they might be put on one tablet, but then a few months later they're on a second one, and then they're on a third, and they're on a fourth.
And then they're on a fifth to ease the symptoms of the side effects of the fourth one that they were put on. So it's kind of like
like a chain. Absolutely. And I'm not here to ditch medicine, because of course we need it. There's a time and a place for everything. But what I was realizing was, when we're not looking at the deeper essence of what's the root that's driving the lack of ease in the first place. So we're not lifting the lid to actually like pull out that thread and say, get curious about, why am I dysregulated? Why am I emotionally unwell? Why am I feeling so anxious and stressed? Why am I having all of these symptoms and flare-ups? What is going on in my life, in my internal world, that's creating these external symptoms? And we can band-aid all we want, and it can help, and it can suppress, and it can ease, but it tends to come at a cost, because if you don't get to the root of it, it's likely to show up somewhere else at a later stage in your life.
I was speaking to someone, I can't remember who it was only in the recent days, and they said, disease is dis-ease.
That's what I talk about in the book all the time. It's a lack of ease. So if you break down the word, DIS-ease, dis-ease, lack of ease. And where does the lack of ease come from? So in the book, I talk about this 3 main pillars, or 3 main circles. So the outer circle is the physical body. And of course, that's really important. That's, we look at everything from our cells and our organs and our blood and our tissues and all of those incredible things that we have to obviously keep well. So that's the physical body, it's the outside one. And really what you're looking at in those areas is things like your stress, managing your stress, looking at your sleep, rest, recovery, looking at your nutrition, what are you eating in the body, and looking at movement as medicine. But then if you go into the next pillar, so it's like, those Russian dolls where you have one inside the other, inside the other. So if you go into the next circle, that's the mind. And that houses everything from your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts. And we now know more than ever the impact that our emotions have on our physical body, that mind-body connection. So everything is energy. So our thoughts carry a frequency, our emotions. So if we're in an emotional state of anger or shame or blame or all of these for too long, we know that this can cause stress in the body and dysregulate the nervous system. So that mind-body connection is so important. But if you go again in, so you have the circle on the outside the body, the next one in is the mind, then go in again, the inner circle is the soul. And I truly believe that this is the missing pillar in our modern world of wellness. We're all focusing on the external, the movement, the food, the exercise. That's all really important. We're now focusing more on the mind in terms of how we can nourish the mind through our meditation and our visualizations and our gratitude and our journaling and all of those incredible things. But are we really focusing on the soul? And the soul is everything, because if we're not focusing on the soul, we're actually missing out on the essence of who you are and what matters to you in your life and what brings you joy and what brings you alive and what lights you up. So your soul it's your essence. It's your inner spark of life. It's your characteristics, your dreams, your desires, your unique gifts and talents. It's what makes everybody different and unique. And if you are living a life that's in alignment with, and in the book I call your soul's script, so what you've been placed here to do, what's in your heart, what are you longing for, what brings that sense of joy and ease and that like play like awe, wonder into your life. If you're living a life that's aligned to that, you will be sending signals into the mind and into the body that are at ease. If somebody walks into a room and they just light up the room, irrespective of what they look like, what size they are, what color their skin is, you can just feel their energy. Or, if you've walked into a room and people have been arguing, you can cut that tension with a knife. You feel it. So everything is stemming from this energy. And on the flip side, if you're living a life where you're not aligned to your core script, you're not listening to the inner whispers of your soul, you're not dancing the dance that you have been placed here to dance. You're dancing a jig, but really your heart wants like a hornpipe. Or, for example, somebody who might be lesbian or gay, but they're not expressing that, so they're hiding that. So if that is suppressed, or part of you is suppressed, locked away, the soul becomes repressed, depressed, squeezed. And what happens then is it's like a pebble in a pond. You throw a pebble into a pond, you see the ripples, you see the aftershocks, you see the waves. If the soul is not happy, if it's not lit up, if it's not allowed to expand and be itself and express yourself to the fullest, flaws and all, you will send a distress signal from the soul, that inner circle, out into the next circle, which is the mind. Then the mind becomes anxious, it becomes irritated, it becomes frustrated, it becomes overwhelmed, it just becomes not at ease. And then what happens that? Your thoughts, your emotions become that frequency, that energy, and then that tips into the outer circle and drops that dis-ease into the nervous system, where it becomes dysregulated and out of balance. Therein, then, we see the symptoms arising.
But do you think that it's easy, though, in this modern world to be content in what you're doing? Let's take, for example, someone that's working in a job that they hate. Mm-hmm. And I suppose if they're a young person, they might be able to jump ship. But if they have a family and a mortgage and bills to pay, how do they get out of this dysregulation? That's the tough part, though, isn't it?
That's it. And like that's doing the work. And in the book, like I talk about that, it's like people...
Can we just mention the book, actually? Because you talk about the book, but we haven't actually said what the book is. The book is called Light Up.
Yes.
And it is available now in bookstores nationwide and online, I'm assuming, yeah?
It is, yes, yeah. It's called Light Up, Energize Your Body, Awaken Your Mind, and Supercharge Your Soul.
How lovely. Can I just do that now?
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, no, but in the book, it's not a woo-woo. It's not a like happy clappy, like, yeah, you can go and do it and everything is wonderful and life is easy and rosy. And it's not. It takes a deep dive into the rawness of life and my own journey. And I share my own experiences. And it's a real...
You've hardly had a bad life.
Well, no, but thankfully I've been very fortunate. And I'm very blessed.
I said that. I was trying to be jokey because obviously everyone has had something in their lives that they've had to deal with. But maybe you can share a little bit of that with us now, because I think that sometimes people might see someone like you who's talking all of this, as you say, woo-woo, and go, sure, she's never had a hard day's work in her life and, you know, all this. But I think that it's important that someone will tell them their little journey as well.
100%. And what I say is I'm very fortunate, I'm very blessed that I haven't had big T traumas. So, but we all have traumas. We all have the small T traumas. And if they accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, they become big T traumas inside your head. You know, we're living out of subconscious programs by the things that are laid down in our foundations, in our inner world from the ages of 0 to 7. So what we lock in the environment that we see between the ages of 0 to 7, because we're in theta brainwave at that stage. So theta brainwave is download hypnosis. That's why kids download everything. We always say they're like sponges. Literally because their brainwave is in that theta state. And that's the state where you know, when you're meditating, you try to get into this really relaxed state, or if someone's doing hypnosis, they'll try and bring your brainwave state down so that you can start to literally download. And that's what happens. And we lock in things. Might be something somebody said to you. Might be what was the environment that you were living in between the ages of 0 and 7. Was it loving? Was it nurturing? Was it kind? Did you feel safe? Or was it a place that was competitive and, you know, a bit nasty or hostile? Or was it like survival? Because then you lock in the world is a nurturing place, is a happy place, or the world is a doggy dog place, and I need to, you know, put the fisticuffs on and fight to survive, literally.
Do you know, when you say that, all I'm thinking about is those poor children over in Gaza.
Oh, like...
And what they're dealing with.
Their nervous system and what they're downloading at this time is just horrendous. It really is. And what they're locking in, it's unimaginable.
In this war, imagine living through that.
It's unimaginable. It really is. And the trauma that they are experiencing right now is...
And it's multi-generational as well.
Totally. And that's one of the things even I mentioned in the book. It's, if you have downloaded a story or a narrative that's not serving you, that's something that, you know, has kept you locked and blocked, that doesn't allow you to shine your light, that you maybe dim the light, that you kind of shy away from putting yourself forward, you don't step outside your comfort zone, all of these things for fear of judgment or shame or blame or whatever your internal narrative might be. in the book I say, like, it's to try and forgive your environment. You're like, was it a teacher? Was it a parent? Was it a caregiver? Because they were doing the best that they were doing given what they were handed down. And I often get handed down, it's multi-generational. So we don't just get handed down our genes, as in the eye color, your nose shape, whatever. You get handed down emotions. Emotions seep down through the lineage as well. So, you know, even in Ireland, we had a famine years ago. Like, that energy can seep down. I think that's why we're very triggered here in Ireland at the moment, because somewhere in our ancestral, we feel it, you know.
But a bit like what's going over there, it wasn't actually a famine. There was plenty of food. It was just being shipped out.
Well,
you know, and that's, you know, and I do believe that's why our Irish people do feel so strongly about what's going on over in the Middle East. But yeah.
And it goes back to energy again. It goes back to, there's a feeling of something that has been in our energy, in our psyche, in our environment, you know. Going back to, you know, what you asked me about my own journey, and like in the book, I share very openly and honestly that, like, I have had my struggles, and the beauty of my life at the moment is I've never taken the easy road. I've always gone a bit left field. I've always gone a bit like off the beaten track with everything, you know. It's easy to stay. It would have been easy to stay in my job. It would have been easy to stay in other relationships. It would have been easy, but I've always kind of listened to my soul, I suppose, really, if you break it down. But with that obviously brings complications and difficult questions and difficult answers. And the essence of when you stop and listen to the soul, that's what I was getting to when I say in the book, people say, should it not be easy? Should it not be like you're in flow, so to make that decision is easy? And I would say yes and no. No, because you have to untangle yourself from years and years of programming, or years of thinking a narrative that I should stay in this job, I should stay in this relationship, I shouldn't move country, I shouldn't do that because, and the narrative will be, what will people think of me, the fear, the judgment, the shame. And you have to untangle yourself from years of living and thinking in a certain way. And when you stop and actually listen to your heart, then you will hear the truth. And often the biggest thing people don't want to hear right now is the truth, because they know if they hear the truth, you can never unhear it. And then you have to make a decision. And that decision is likely going to be a big change. And people don't like change because it unnerves them, and you have to get outside your comfort zone. And it's the push or the kind of shift to do something can be, it's like a butterfly. I always use the analogy of the butterfly. So you have a caterpillar, happy out, you know, scrolling along there, you know, and thinking everything is fine. And next thing, the caterpillar is put into this cocoon. And in the cocoon, it's dark. I'm sure the caterpillar is saying, holy shit, get me out of here. What's this dark, like, enclosed place? It's scary. It's like unknown. Like, it would have been easier maybe stay out there as the caterpillar. But that's the resistance, and that's the kind of the work. But if you sit into that, and that's where you can't run from the emotions, and you can't start, because what happens is you keep running and you keep running, you're just suppressing and you're distracting. And then we suppress with food, we suppress with alcohol, we suppress with overworking. We just keep running and getting distracted with the phones, just so that we don't sit and listen to the soul, because the truth is what we're going to hear. But if we sit into it, it's like you're in the cocoon. But then what happens is, and then the butterfly flies. And now the caterpillar's going, holy shit, I have wings. I have a whole new life. I have a whole new way of seeing things. And I often say it's like, in my own life, I feel like I was wearing sunglasses. And I just lifted the lens, and I'm like, holy shit, what was I at?
But was it a moment of awakening? Was it you working in the pharmacy, seeing all these drugs being prescribed and thinking, we need to get to the root cause? Was that the beginning for you? Or was it further back? Do you feel that this was something that was part of you, that you were questioning the soul, you were questioning this from a young age?
I think I've always had a deeper longing or yearning or knowing, kind of an inner knowingness that, you know, from early on. And my mom handed me Louise Hay's book when I was 14, and that was all about that mind-body connection and the power of ourselves to kind of heal, and to the power that we have to create our lives through our own mind and all of that, and emotions. And then in college, even as I was studying pharmacy, I always had a gravitation or like a longing for kind of a holistic approach. Like even in my final year, I did my thesis on complementary and alternative medicine.
What did your lecturers think about that?
I think the lecturers were a bit like, yeah, grand, but my friends were a bit like, you won. Like, you know.
I did mine on depression, actually. Yeah, it was a topic that was really close to me. It took to my heart because a beloved relative of mine had a psychiatric break when I was doing my leaving cert. Like, this was like someone that was like a second mum to me, and it was so traumatic. But yeah, so I was very much into that whole mind thing as well, and how, you know, depression can take over and how it can really just spread its tentacles. And if someone doesn't get the help that they need, or even if they do get the help, sometimes they're medication resistant or therapy resistant. It's so very sad. But what made you go into pharmacy?
Yes, so because I always had a real wanting towards health and well-being and healing. And that's always been my calling. But I'm so glad of my journey through pharmacy. I'm so glad I did it, because I learned so much, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without that journey. And I think you have to be in a system to really see its values, but also to see the limitations. And without having gone through that and having the kind of that groundedness of learning the physicality of the body and the anatomy and all the physiology, and understanding how the body works and understanding how medicines work, but then seeing, well, why isn't it really getting to the nub of a lot of the problems? And then that was the missing picture. It's like, because we're not looking at the mind, we're not looking at the soul, we're not looking at this person as a whole being. We're just coming in and saying, show me your hand, show me your rash, okay, here's an antibiotic, without asking, why are you angry in the first place? That maybe is causing inflammation and rage in your body, and it's trying to make its way out.
What were you like when you were cutting up the cadavers then in anatomy and physiology?
I'll never forget, I was in first year in college and we were studying anatomy, and I just had, you know, one of those pop moments, kind of like, And I remember putting my hand up and asking one of the lecturers, and I'll never forget her reaction. And I just said, but you know, like, we're studying the dead bodies here, the cadavers. And she's like, yes. And I was like, but there's no life here. She was like, duh, like, yes. And I said, but there's no energy in the body. Like, there's no emotions in this person. There's no feelings. There's no thoughts. So how are we really going to understand, like, what made this person sick? Or how are we going to heal? And she was just like, I could see she was kind of going, oh my God, this one, what are you talking about? But I also could see she was kind of like, oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because she'd never actually thought about connecting the dots between how our thoughts, how our feelings, how our emotions can impact the physical body, which we know they absolutely can.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. So we were only been taught one area, you know, the physical, like Newtonian physics. If the body breaks down, it's robotic, you know. Now it is changing, which is great. It is absolutely changing, you know, and there's so much more awareness out there now around the interconnectedness of the mind and the body and the soul, but maybe not so much on the soul just yet. But the soul is coming back to, what do you love to do that just, your shoulders drop, you unclasp the kind of tightness around the chest, the breathing just becomes nice and deep, or you have a bit of fun, like you have a laugh. What do you do that gets you off the treadmill, that unhooks you from the stress and the strain and the struggle, and allows you to feel that freedom, feel that flight, feel that sense of spaciousness? Because what's happening in our modern world today is we're so rigid and tight and conforming, and we're trying to fit in, and we're trying to, and I know that was my journey for a long time. And I'm very honest about that in the book. One of our reactive ways to stress is the fawn response, which is a people please, fit in, be nice, fit into every group and be nice to everybody. And if you get that, well, then you'll be approved of, and then you'll be liked, and then you won't be left behind. And that's what the stress response is, because you don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be not part of the tribe. So it's a survival response.
But if we didn't all conform to a certain set of rules, would there not be pandemonium?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like, I mean, there's a balance to everything, but it's conforming to if it feels right for you. I mean, like, if I was to say to you, stay in a job just to fit in, but your soul is crying and dying, and now you're getting stressed and you're not sleeping and you're anxious, and now your relationship is breaking down, and now you can't even get out of bed, would you say stay in the job?
No.
So
how do people begin to make those steps, Miriam, if they don't like their job? Because I hear that a lot in my Sunday confessions.
Yeah, okay.
Hate my job, but I have a mortgage, or myself and my husband are in inverted commas, earning good money with 2 jobs, but we still can't make ends meet. How do we get out of this vicious cycle of mundanity?
Yeah.
What can people do? What's the first step to that? Because we can't just throw caution to the wind either. Sure, we can't.
Yeah, like again, it comes back to balance. But if your soul like is dying and crying, the only is to flip it on its head and to say to you, okay, if you're to stay where you are and change nothing, keep living the way you're living, keep, in the same job, keep eating what you're eating, keep drinking the way you're drinking, keep moving the way you're moving, keep sleeping the way you're sleeping. Just change nothing. Nothing is to change. What does that vision look like in 5 or 10 years' time for you and your relationship or your kids? So what's the energy that you're living in your life in right now? Is it an energy of stress, strain, go, like Tasmanian devil, coffee, sugar, just to get me through the day, survive, cool down then with the wine at the nighttime because I can't, it's just this always on? Or like just ask yourself that question, or over the last 6 months, what's your energy been like? Or have you been calm and kind of grounded and, okay, cool? Or have you been kind of angry and bitter and pissed off with the world? So what's the energy you've been living in? What's the life you're living? If you're happy with that, if the vision of that in 5, 10 years time, you're happy with that, brilliant. If you're not, and the vision of that in 5, 10 years time is not a pleasing one, it might be where, will you look sick? Will you get sick? Well, so if you get sick, then you can't work anyway. So how can we come in and press the pause button? And what I would do with people is I would get them just to press pause for a moment. The only way we can really get answers and listen to what our soul, and if that sounds woo-woo, your heart is asking, longing for you, is you have to disconnect yourself first from the external world and the noise. And you have to go inward to slow everything down, get out in nature, unplug, do some breathing, do some meditation, and actually go in and ask yourself, what is it I need? What is it I need? What is it I need?
Jeez, I'm like entranced here now when you're saying that. I feel like I just want to do a little breathing session with you.
Yeah, we can do that. And it's just slowing down, doing some breathing, opening the heart, because what happens is in our busy world, and then when you get locked into that, I don't like my job, you kind of get angry and you're kind of just in that survival, and maybe the fisticuffs are on in that stress, fight or flight response. And what happens is, and it makes me really sad, what happens is the heart locks and we almost put like a energetic or a protective wall around, a barrier around the heart. And when that gets blocked, then we can't let love flow. And we particularly can't let love flow back into ourselves. So then we deny our needs, we suppress our needs, we don't listen to the call. We just keep going, keep busy, keep keeping distracted. And ultimately what's dying and suppressing is your own needs. And then that leads to depletion, it leads to burnout, it leads to anger, frustration, breakdown in relationships, all of those things that we don't want happening. So I would say to people, firstly, sit. There's always an answer. As my husband Jerry always says, every morning you wake up, there's 2 C's beside your bed, a choice and a chance. So you have a choice. Even though we think we don't, there's always a choice. So it might look like making some switches, making some changes. It might look like one person steps back, one person goes to part-time. It might look like selling a car, maybe moving house to an area you can afford. There are always means and ways, but it's looking at what are your priorities? What do you value most? If you value more of space and time, well then how can you create that? What do you need to let go of? And the big thing is the ego comes in, the head comes in, and we're running by ego over essence. Ego is the head, essence is the heart, which is the soul. If you listen to the soul, if you listen to the heart, you will never go wrong. It will guide you and lead you in ways that may be off the beaten track, maybe a little bit different to what you had thought. But if it's going to bring you to a place of more ease and grace and peace and joy, well, that's worth everything.
And the soul that you talk about isn't the soul we were taught about in Catholic Mass, was it?
Well, you see, that's where it can get really intertwined, and that's when people can kind of go, oh, like shrug the shoulders and kind of, oh, spirituality. It just brings me back to the Catholic Church. So soul is who you are. It's that essence, it's that inner spark of light. It's like if you have a set of identical twins, which my sister has, beautiful identical twins, look the exact same. I still can't tell them apart, and they're 10 years of age, but they're completely different. Grew up in the same family, same parents, ate the same foods, everything, but they're completely different people. That's the soul.
Okay.
It's what makes you different. It's your characteristic. It's that energy. It's that sparkle in the eye.
Are you spiritual? Do you believe in a religion of such sorts? Or
yeah, so I do. I personally have deep faith. Like, I don't go to mass every Sunday, but I would pray. I believe in God. I always have. And it's like I pray, I meditate, I kneel at
is it the God, though, the Catholic, like the way we were taught it, or is it just a higher being, say?
So for me personally, I believe in a God. So I'm Catholic, and I do pray, and I do believe in the God. That would be my way, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So I would say the soul is who you are, but spirituality are the practices that you engage in to connect to your soul. So that might be God for people. It might be going to the church. It might be lighting a candle. It might be prayer, but it also might be getting on your yoga mat.
Yeah.
It might be getting in for a swim. It might be meditating. It might be going out in nature, getting on your bike, going for a hike, just anything where you connect to something higher than yourself. So that might be universe, God, nature, anything that unplugs you from the kind of craziness of this earthly world and connects you to something more powerful than ourselves.
Okay.
So we all know, like, if you've had a shit day or if you've lost a loved one, if you go to nature, you feel better. You feel held. There's something, like if you go up a mountain or you go sit by the sea or you go into a forest, you just know that you don't even need to know the science behind it. You just know you feel better after it. There's something there. And sometimes we want to like get the science behind everything and want to understand everything. Sometimes it's just do it. And if it feels good, keep doing it. You know, if it feels like it's nourishing you, keep doing it at that soulful level, not nourishing you at a distraction level and like a quick dopamine hit. We can get real dopamine hits from slowing down and actually accessing that kind of inner well of peace that does reside within us all. And back to your question about, you know, people and the job and leaving it, you really, trust is a big thing. And that's where the faith comes in for me. It's trusting in the journey, trusting in the process, trusting in that, what if it does work out? Because we jump to, oh, what if I don't make the money? What if I don't? What if it works out way better than you ever imagined? And in order to allow new things to come into your life or to pave a new path, we have to be willing to let go of things. I often say, like, if I open my hand here and I have a load of rocks in there, but I want to get rid of the rocks. So I have to firstly take them out. And now there's that awkward point or stage where there's nothing in my hand. And that's like the cave of uncertainty. And that's like, holy shit, what's going to happen here? Oh my God, this is really uncomfortable. But then once the palm is open, once you're receptive, now something else can come in. But if the old rocks are still there, nothing else can ever come in.
Okay.
So what I'd be saying is to those people, if they're in a job that they don't like, what do they like to do? Sit, get quiet, write, journal, go to nature, open the heart and ask, what is it I do like? What would light me up? What am I interested in? What are my passions? What am I always searching online? Because that's an indicator of what you're interested in. Okay, go follow someone or contact someone who's in that space. Like, how can I get into that world? How can I start to do something that actually lights me up and I love doing? And it may be that maybe those people in the job, maybe it's just that they're not allowing space outside of the work to bring them alive in other areas. You know, so sometimes we just get stuck and locked and then we can't see the wood from the trees and we can't find joy anywhere. So it might be like taking up a hobby or just going out for friends and having a laugh and incorporating those light me up moments, I call them.
Enjoying your time outside of work so your time in work is then bearable and okay.
Getting yourself regulated first. So first working on yourself. So getting your own nervous system regulated, getting your joy back into your life, getting love into your life, opening the heart. And then if you're still in the job and you still hate it at that point, well then that's okay, I need to get out of here. Or I need to make pivots. Might not be like take the big jump and leave, but like what I did, I was started to do all my learnings like while I was still a pharmacist. So I was doing my trainings in integrative nutrition and yoga and mindfulness and yoga psychology, all while I was a pharmacist. But what I started to do then was I cut down my hours. And I went from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days. And I started to build up on the side. I was doing my health coaching and I was doing some yoga retreats. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, now I can't do both. Where is my soul drawing me? Where do I love? Okay, it's over here. Now it's okay to let that go. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like I'm just going to leave and quit. If you're fearful around taking that bungee jump, I was saying start doing things, taking up a course, doing that online thing, joining whatever the yoga is at the weekend or whatever. Just get interested and follow your flow, follow your passion and start to light yourself up from the inside out. And I guarantee you then doors open. Opportunities arise. But if you're stuck and you're not willing to change or not willing and you're just telling yourself a story, a narrative, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, well, you'll never do that.
So you need to be open to change. That's the
key to everything.
The key thing.
Yeah.
Miriam, you talk a bit about emotional eating in the book and it's very interesting. I'd love you to share that with the listeners.
Yeah. So it's been a journey that I've been on myself, so I speak, from my own personal standpoint and the journey into it, through it and out of it. And also then, from a kind of working with people and clients and also seeing their journey. So whether we know it or not, we all have a relationship to food because we all eat food every day. So it's asking yourself, what is your relationship to food? Is it a healthy one or is it a disharmonious one? Is it one where you're constantly thinking about it? You're kind of that restrictive mindset. You're in that kind of diet culture, lack limitation, where everything is focused around the food and what you're eating and what you're not eating and calorie counting and all of that. Because if that's the story or the narrative for you, well, it's constrictive and it's very overwhelming and it's very draining actually. To be constantly on that trajectory of what next or where and
So many women are though.
So many women.
And we've been bombarded with all of this overwhelming information.
Absolutely.
I don't know now, obviously you're way younger than me, Miriam, but once you hit perimenopausal years, you'll be told to be eating the amount of protein the size of an elephant a day, while also, lifting weights and getting your sleep and cooking organic food for your family and holding down a job. Yes. It's all very overwhelming. So from a young age, we're taught, I suppose, I grew up in the 90s, I was a teenager in the 90s and it was all Cosmo and the supermodels and like looking skinny. And then we went through Heroin Chic, which was an absolute blast. All the skinny ladies. And we were in much more body positivity movement now. But then again, with Ozempic and that, apparently we're going back to the skinny. So girls and women are being constantly bombarded. I would hate to have grown up in the Instagram years.
Me too.
I have to say.
Yeah.
So how do we get out of that mindset? Because I know so many women, like I go down to the hairdressers and be speaking to, hearing women speak and it's something that consumes their every day, their every waking hour.
100%. And so for me, it really became apparent in my college years where like being skinny was everything for me and everything revolved around the external world. So how I looked, what size I was, and then constantly in the gym, playing sports and really limiting my food intake. So that was my kind of early 20s and it was just very, I like it was so consuming. And then I traveled, I was in Australia and New Zealand and Bali and Asia and all that. And when I came back, I almost did a 360. So it went from kind of being under eating and it flipped, the pendulum just went the other way to overeating, where it was like consuming, trying to suppress, push down, kind of that urgency, go to the fridge, and then what happens you after that is horrendous. It's the shame, it's the blame, you feel terrible. And I talk about it in the book. It's like a vicious cycle. So you get a trigger. So something triggers you. So it's a busy day at work, your boss says something to you, you have an argument, whatever, and you get triggered. So then you want to suppress that trigger. You don't want to feel it. You want to kind of soothe yourself. It's a coping mechanism. So you run to the fridge or you pull into the petrol station on the way home from work and you pick up the chocolate bars or whatever it might be and you start to eat, right? And what that does is it gives you that kind of like a false high, a bliss. So it's like the kind of like, that euphoric feeling of this is great. I don't have to think about it. Everything is great. But then you get the crash And I call that the hangover phase. And you get the hangover phase physically because you can like on Christmas Day, if you're so full, that bloatedness, you're kind of like, you're on the couch. You feel tired, you feel lethargic, but also you get the emotional hangover phase, which in the book I talk about, it's the feelings of FATs. F, fear, anger, tension, and shame.
I thought that meant fat as in FAT.
Yeah, well, it is. It's the feelings of that, like FAT, so fear, anger. Fear is the predominant one, and from that stems anger, tension, and shame. And shame is really shame is the worst one because it's just like guilt and shame. People can intermix them as the same, but guilt is more I've done something wrong. Shame is I am wrong. And when you feel wrong or not worthy, it's a horrible place to be. And then what happens is when you get into that place, you get triggered again, and then the cycle keeps going. So for me, what happened was I just had that moment. I was like, this is not right. I need to look at this. There's something not natural about my relationship to food. And if anything is secret, it's not right. So, and I was kind of hiding that. Thankfully, I was still going to the gym and working out. So it was never apparent and I didn't pile on the pounds. So it was I managed it, but internally, I was internal tug of war.
Yeah.
So I realized through the journey was the issue is never the issue. So food is not the issue. Food was never the issue. The food was a symptom of an internal harmonious relationship I had with myself. Again, back to the pharmacy, treating the symptom, but we're not lifting the lid to look at, well, what's causing the lack of ease in the first place. Same with emotional eating. What's driving you to eat in an unwanted way? What is your hunger? Because what happens is you have a hunger for life, not a hunger for food. But that hunger for life has been suppressed or repressed. Again, back to the soul not been heard, the soul not been nourished. And in the book, I talk about, when I started to study integrative nutrition, came across this primary and secondary food thing, and it blew my mind. So in it, they talk about your primary foods are all of the things that truly nourish you, that bring you alive, that bring you a sense of fulfillment and joy and all of these incredible things, but none of them are found on a plate. So these are things like love, adventure, freedom, success, that sense of intimacy, creativity, like all of these things you can't go into a supermarket and pick off a shelf and put on your plate. Yet we all know they exist. Again, back to energy. You can't see love in a tin and eat it. But we all know and we all feel love. But if we are lacking in love, we're lacking in everything. So the secondary food then are the foods that you actually consume. And of course, what we eat is really important for our gut health and our immune function and our mood and everything. But it's like if you have a car, if I'm driving a car and I have my 4 tires on the car, the 4 tires are the 4 pillars of my primary foods. So they're divided into 4 pillars. Relationship with others, but more importantly, your relationship with yourself. So how do you communicate to yourself? When you get up in the morning, when you look into the mirror, what do you say to yourself about yourself?
I always tell people they should tell themselves they're big rides.
100%. Because mirror work. If anyone takes anything from this podcast, please start doing mirror work.
Mirror work.
So
just talking to yourself in the mirror.
Literally get up in the morning. If you want to heal anything in your life, you have to heal the relationship you have with yourself. Because if you have a loving, harmonious relationship with yourself, now you'll value yourself. Now you'll value your needs. Now you'll value that run. Now you'll value not ramming wine down your throat or 5 bags of biscuits. You'll value yourself enough not to sabotage yourself. So mirror work is one of the most powerful things because you stand in the mirror. But Laura, the most sad thing, most women find this so hard to do.
I know. Sure, even doing breast checks, I'm telling them, take off your bra and look at your boobies because you need to properly look at them to see if there's anything wrong. Yeah. And you're like, I don't like my boobs.
I know. We're so hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves. But mirror work is the gateway or the portal to start that process of allowing love to flow back from yourself to yourself. So you stand in the mirror, you look into your eyes. So I would always say, go to the bathroom, because we all get up in the morning, we go to the bathroom, we go to the toilet. We tend to wash our bodies. Again, the external, the physical, we'll wash our hair, we'll wash our face, we'll brush our teeth. But do you wash or cleanse your mind? And it's just as important. Or wash or cleanse the soul. So you look into your eyes, which are the windows of the soul. You plant your 2 feet on the ground. If you want to just take a slow, deep breath, and you look into your eyes and you just say anything, something that's loving and kind and compassionate to yourself. Now, if you can't start with the physicality, that's okay. You can just start by saying, I'm a loving mom. I'm a beautiful daughter. I'm a loyal friend. Anything. Just start with something that does resonate and that you can feel comfortable saying. And then you start to build that up and you start to build that up. And every time you pass a mirror, you stop and you take a moment and you say something to yourself.
Do you go to parties and if there's houses with loads of mirrors in it, do you just walk past it?
Yeah,
people just see you walking past the mirror. Oh, I'm gorgeous. Look at me there.
Or what another trick is, a funny thing is, before I'm going on stage or before I'm doing any keynote talks or anything, you know those old cartoon characters where someone would fall and they'd have whizzing around their head. Do you remember those stars? Yeah. I would tell people, think of 3 words that you want to be perceived as after the talk or after that interview or after you meet your friends or after whatever, or just 3 words that you want to like embody in that day. So it might be elegant, kind, beautiful. It might be whatever, radiant, grounded, solid, strong, calm, whatever. And like literally see those 3 words whizzing around your head for the day. And it's so funny. When I come off, sometimes people will say those 3 words to me. My God, Miriam, you were like radiant, you were this, you were that. And I'm like, they're the 3 words I picked.
Wow.
And that's not made up. That's fact. Like, so mirror work is the gateway of untangling that relationship that can be often, because often we're just so hard on ourselves and we listen to that inner critic and we have that, you fucking idiot, why did you say that, you're so stupid, oh my God, like just you're this, you're ugly, you're fat. And we have that trend and that story going on for 30, 40 years. So it's not going to be easy just to unravel that. It does take time and it does take practice, but it's like anything. You don't just get up off your ass and run a marathon. Like you have to practice, you have to put in the miles, and it's the same with this. But it's so simple. You can do it anywhere. You can bring it anywhere. You can do it like at any time in any place. You don't need any fancy apparatus and it doesn't cost anything. But yet it's really powerful. So back to those tires, relationships is one, career is the other one. Are you in a job that ignites your light? Does it bring you alive? Are you passionate about it?
And jobs might be in a stay-at-home mum or dad and minding your kids too.
100%.
We were just talking about that. That is the hardest job.
100%, you know. But for me, if I'm not in that job, my soul is crying and tired, and like there's a struggle and strain internally if I'm not fulfilling that role for me
as a mom.
So my soul, even though there's so many opportunities arising now for me to go here and speak here and travel here and do this, I had to just really sit into it and say, phases and stages in my life. There's a phase and stage for everything. There's a phase and stage for everything. And will I get this time back? No. Will I regret it? 100%. So I'm choosing that to map my life in a way that I can live in that role for now at this phase and stage.
Children now?
5 and nearly 3. 5 and 3.
They're so young.
They're still babies.
Yeah.
So career, and then the other 2 pillars are your movement. So are you allowing flow into your life? Because one of the big pillars in the book is movement as medicine, but it's also awakening our inner pharmacy. So when we move the body, we get the release of our endorphins, our endogenous morphine. We're making our own pain relief, that, you know, that runner's high, that bliss state. You're also releasing your serotonin and your dopamine and your oxytocin and all of these chemicals that we go to the pharmacy to get. But we can make them internally through things like movement and flow and getting out in nature and all of those things. And then that final pillar in those primary foods, which are the foods that really light us up and nourish us, is your spirituality. And that sense of what are you doing to ignite the soul? What are you doing to connect to your true desires? What are you doing to bring more peace into your life? And for me in my life, when my emotional eating was all over the place, again, it was a symptom of something disharmonious going on in my primary foods. I realized 2 of my tires were blown out. So if I'm driving down the road and I have 2 punctured tires, but I say, you know what, doesn't matter, Laura, I'll pull into the petrol station up here and I'll put the best diesel in, or I'll plug my car in, but the 2 tires are still flat. So that's why you can be eating the best food. You can be, you know, doing all the exercise, doing all the incredible things. But if you're not been nourished at that deep down soulful level, it's like driving your car with 2 tires punctured.
And what were your tires that were punctured?
So career and relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
So
you met Jerry and everything just fell into place, yeah?
The knight in shining armor.
When you were basically starving yourself in the earlier days and you were not eating enough, you were missing something there too, were you? Was it the career and relationships as well?
So at that point, I was so focused on my whole worth and value. Yeah, it came down to the same thing. It comes down to what my core belief about myself was. I didn't think I was good enough. So I would do anything or be in a relationship or, fit into any tribe or any group or do whatever I thought would make me feel validated and seen and approved of, because I didn't see and approve of myself for who I was.
Okay.
So I outwardly would have to, so the image became
the thing.
Oh, if I'm thin and pretty, well, people will like me. You know what I mean? So, but deep down, the wound and the wounding in my soul was I just didn't feel like I was good enough as I was. So as you grow and as you mature and you let all that kind of shit go, you just realize, like, my biggest learning has been, not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to like you.
Some people might even dislike you.
100%. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
People listen to this probably saying I don't like her, and that's okay, because I say, you know what, not everybody likes Chinese, not everybody likes Indian, not everybody likes Oasis. Like, everybody likes different things, and that's what makes the world go round. So if you can like yourself, you're going to live with yourself. You're the only person that lives in your head and your body every day. So you are in a relationship with yourself every day. But imagine if I said, to my partner or your husband, or you said to every morning when you woke up, you said, if you said what you say to yourself, to your partner, how long would you think they'd stay in the relationship with you? Be gone out the door. You're so stupid, you're fat, you're this,
yeah.
But we say it to ourselves every day and we think that's okay. But what I would say to people is, that's not okay, because your cells are listening, your body is listening, your soul is listening. And it's like, if you can visualize every cell in your body almost like having a pair of ears, and they're listening to everything you're saying, and they're feeling every feeling you're feeling. And then they're either dancing and happy and they're responding to that love and ease, or they're responding to that toxicity. Which is going to be a healthier body.
And Miriam, how do you think you will, I know you have a daughter and you have a son as well, but how will you try and ensure that your daughter doesn't have that same relationship with herself or her body that I suppose you had, in terms of, and I know that we can't blame our parents for, or blame our upbringing for feeling a certain way at a certain time but what are you doing to instill that confidence and that soul and that in your children? Because I know that they're so young, but I would assume that you're actively doing it with them.
Yeah, and one of the things I do with them is mirror work.
Do you?
And they come down the stairs and every morning they look into the mirror and they say, I am beautiful, I am brave, I can do anything. I am abundant, I am kind, I am so proud of myself.
Oh,
that's what she says every morning, and it's so cute. And it was so funny. We were down in my husband's house in Galway, and we were having our we were staying down there during the summer, and we were having our porridge. And Jerry's dad was at the table, and lots of people who've listened to this podcast might have met Jerry's dad. He's a ticket. He's a hoot, and he was sitting at the table, and I came down and I said, "Will we say our bless, grace before meals and bless the food?" That's another thing I try to instill to them. Not from a religious point of view, but pause, take a breath before you eat, and just thank the food. And that action of putting love into the food, and it's so important, And we used to do that in the olden days, and it's just gone. And it's literally, what is it now? It's mindful eating. That's what it is. But we were sitting at the table, and I said, "We'll say our little prayers and our little grace before meal." And then we'd finished, and bless God, amen, or whatever. And then she was digging into the porridge, and she goes, "And I am abundant, and I am kind." And she went on with the affirmations. And Jerry's dad was sitting at the table, and he just was like, "What the hell?" It was so funny. So little things like that. And what I will say is, I'm not perfect. I'm 100% not perfect. I put my hands up and say, I totally have my flaws. I still do. I'm still a work in progress, as we all are, because nobody is perfect. So there are times where I'm not mindful or I'm not present, and I do lose the rag with the kids.
Jesus,
you know what I mean?
So good to hear. I just thought I just thought you're like so present all the time.
No, I'm not. Not at all. I'm human.
Mindfully thinking all the time.
Not at all. Obviously, I try my best. And the thing I try to live by is fracture and repair. So you do lose the rag with them, fracture, but then how quick can you repair that? So go back and say, sorry, or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have lost it there, or whatever.
You're not an asshole. I didn't mean to say that.
You little shit, you know. So it's fracture and repair. And again, it comes back to nobody's perfect. Like, and I'm certainly not. I would not put any blame for my stuff on my mum or dad. My mum was amazing. She still is. She was the one that handed me the book. And like, really, it comes down to, for me, what I'm trying to instill is, can you have fun in the home? Can it be a safe place? Your nervous system will not regulate unless it feels safe. So can you be their safe place that they can come to with anything, whether it's good or bad, that they can land in home and that they know that there's a person there that can hold them and that can hold that space. And that's what I'm trying to do. Little things like the affirmations, like the grace before meals, the dancing, putting music on and getting them to dance and have a bit of play and have a bit of fun. They're little things, but they don't cost anything. And I think they're things that anyone and everybody can do.
You're at a lovely stage with them. You really are. Like if I turn around to my teenage boys now and said, do you want to dance with me? They'd
I know.
Look at me like I had two heads.
I know. And that's why I'm in that, making that big decision of, you know, not wanting to miss that versus going out and doing this, that and the other. And again, like if anyone is trying to make a decision in whatever walk of life it is, just try and get out of the head what you think you should do, what you think the world thinks you should do, what Instagram thinks you should do, and actually ask, what is it that my heart is asking me to do? What is it that my soul is whispering at me to do? And the big thing I would say is if you don't listen to the soul now when it's a whisper, it can become a roar. Or in the book I call about when the soul screams enough. And that can unfortunately show up sometimes in a burnout or a breakdown of some sort, whether it's a relationship or your health or something. So my belief is listen to the heart, listen to the soul, get still enough, unplug from the busyness and really allow yourself to drop into that space and listen to what it is that your soul is longing for at this phase and stage in your life.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about health and wellness?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's all about the physical. Obviously, it's really important. Exercise is important, so important. Food is so important. Getting your sleep is so important. And managing your stress. But I think the biggest thing we're missing is that soul part. It's like, what do you want to do? What lights you up? What brings you home? What lands you into feeling alive, feeling grounded, feeling safe, feeling secure? Because you cannot find that in a box of something on the shelf, or you cannot just pick that up. And you have to, I believe it's an integrated approach. So it's not all or nothing. We need to be pulling at the different strands and looking at health as this integrated whole picture of the mind with the body, with the soul, working together so that we have this energy flowing through all of the three rather than just looking at one pillar and dissociating or cutting off from the other. Because that's going to create disharmony, disjointed sense of self, that internal tug of war, not feeling aligned, not feeling wholesome. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing in our world today is that we are utterly distracted away from the essence of who we are. And that's why I think there's so much anxiety and depression and people, you know, addicted to things because we're not listening to our souls.
And we're being bombarded with so much information as well, online, etc. That when you say about that distraction, is that what you mean? Yeah.
And what's happening is we're being so much pulled and sucked into everybody else's life that we're totally disconnected from our own lives. And we can't even feel. A lot of people are in freeze response, which is that numb, like a solid block of ice. You can't feel. We have to start thawing that. And I talk about that in the book, how we go from freeze to freedom, How do we thaw? How do we melt? How we do that is the healing is in the feeling. We have to start to feel our emotions. We have to start not suppressing them, denying them, running away from them. We have to actually sit into them and listen to, well, why has this taken up residency in my body? If there's an emotion here, why is it popping its head up? Why is it bubbling up? And instead of saying, go away from me, I don't like you, this is a horrible, uncomfortable feeling, get curious and befriend it and say, well, if you're already in my body, it's like a parasite. If you neglect it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's like, I often say, it's like if I have a bottle of fizzy water here, I tighten the lid really tight, but I start to shake the bejesus out of the bottle. The water fizzing around is like our hormones and our stress and everything. The physical body, the bottle is like the vessel. It's like the body. And if we're tightening and tightening it and tightening it, it's just going to, what's going to happen is you're going to get this explosion where the water just flows out everywhere. And this outburst and this rage or this breakdown of some sort. So we have to learn, how can I start to open the lid? So it's just going, so it's not going to overwhelm us and then you can't deal with it. But how can I start to open the lid just gently so that is coming out? So the emotions are not been locked and suppressed and stagnated within. And you know, from in yoga, like we can push the emotions into the dark corners of the body. You know, we tend to lock anger into the hips. You know, we tend to hold things. The body holds the score. The body, that tightness sense, and we hold trauma in the body. So we need to move it out. So how do we, and that opening the bottle is just through the lifestyle, just choices and decisions that we make every day. So I often say to people, just do one thing every day, small thing. One thing for your mind, one thing for your body, and one thing for your soul. Just do one thing, anything. So if it's for the body, it might go for the walk, you know, have the green smoothie or whatever it is, make the healthy breakfast, put the runners on. For the mind, it might be, I'm going to do 5 minutes of breathing. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to do some journaling. I'm going to do some gratitude, just little things that's going to allow my mind to feel more at ease. And what's one thing I can do for the soul today? And that might be like, what brings me life? What like brings out that play-like wonder? I might meet up with friends for a laugh. I might jump into the sea. I might go out in nature, whatever. I might ring my mum for a chat. Something that just, you feel that love and connection. One thing every day. Like those 3 things that I mentioned from each section didn't cost anything. Didn't take up that much time. But if we're tipping the wheel every day, we're opening the bottles. And now instead of an accumulation of cortisol and adrenaline revving through the body and there's always on, not able to switch it off, we're dropping into that parasympathetic side of the nervous system, rest, repair, regulation more regularly. So the body then is coming back into more ease and harmony rather than being like an explosion, which is what we don't want.
I'm actually thinking now, because I was going to do some work after this podcast, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and hang out with one of my kids, because that's what actually fills my cup.
Yeah.
So I love sitting down and getting other people's perspectives, because you do take little bits from every conversation that you have with people, don't you?
Of course. Lovely. Yeah.
Miriam, what bit of advice would you give young people today?
Oh God, where do you start? You know, I suppose my wish for young people today is that they just don't lose themselves. If they can stay grounded and they can stay listening to their heart rather than up here and going with what everybody else is doing and fitting in, we would have a whole different world, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So I would be saying, please just know that it's okay to be different. Know that it's okay to say no to things that don't feel right for you. And getting them to actually body scan and check in with their bodies regularly to tell them what's a yes and what's a no. So a yes, if you're asking yourself a question or trying to make a decision, a yes, you will feel it in the body where the belly will kind of soften. There'll be a kind of a lightening or a loosening across the chest. The shoulders might drop. There might be a sense of relief in the body. If it's a no, the stomach will kind of go, it'll kind of crunch up. The shoulders might go up a little bit towards the ears. This is kind of a no.
A hunched position.
Hunched, a caving inwards. Like the body's kind of trying to protect you, to shield you, to say no. But if it's a yes, the body kind of will open, the shoulders will drop, there'll be a sense of this feels right. If we could teach kids that at a young age, I think it would be a wonderful gift, so that they're not just always following the crowd or doing what everybody else is doing, trying to fit in. And knowing that it's okay to be different. It's okay to have different likes. It's okay to listen to your heart.
And what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life for me is, it's joy. It's having peace. It's at the end of your days, being able to look back with no regrets. Being able to say, I did it, I tried it. But most importantly, it's having people around you that will want to be at your bed when it's the end of your days. It's having people around you that say, she was kind, she was loving, she was caring. And that's it. If you have a life of joy and ease and grace and peace, I mean, what more do you want?
Absolutely. Miriam, I could speak to you all day, but I have to let you go. Miriam's book, Light Up, is available in all good bookstores. It's available online, and it is an excellent read. And it's a book that you can actually refer to, isn't it? You can open it up and you can refer to it. It's fab. So I would highly recommend. So
thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. We'll have you on again.